Okay. Hello. This is Opportunity Cost-Effective Marketing and PR for Indies. My name is Chris Dwyer, and I don't know, I do a lot of stuff. So what to expect from this talk? It's kind of a different talk from most marketing talks you're used to. This is kind of more of a mindset and emotional talk. So yeah, who am I is going to be the first thing I talk about. What is marketing and PR? Like, whatever, we all know, but I'm going to talk about it a little bit. And then also my approach to marketing and PR. There's going to be no stats during this talk, and there's going to be no fucking charts. So no Steam Spy ones. So this is me, I don't know, like a couple months ago. And this is what I used to do. I used to be an account manager and brand strategist for consumer packaged goods. So the Allegra allergy brand packaging, I'm pretty responsible for a lot of the strategy behind, kind of those USB descriptors and so on. Philips Colon Health, if you look at the back of the box, I've written some copy about digestive probiotic caps. It's very exciting stuff. But I didn't find it was totally fulfilling. So I started doing video games. And over the last 2 years or so, this is what I've been up to. I've been working with Gone Home for Consoles, the wonderful folks at Finji, N++, Thumper, and currently The Signal from Tolva. I also work for the best video game distributor in the entire business, itch.io. So marketing and PR. It's weird and it's kind of dumb. So basically, you have a player and you have your thing. And theoretically, there should just be a straight line between getting the player to purchase your thing or find your thing. There's this kind of weird thing called marketing and PR in between there that happens in between. And it takes the form of press articles, trailers, screenshots, GIFs, copy on your Steam page, anything. So it kind of looks like that when you zoom in a little bit. But let's zoom in a little bit more. Whoa, okay. It gets kind of really screwed up. So yeah, marketing's really complex and weird. These lines can represent anything, your game getting announced and then being quiet for a while, or having a screenshot, or maybe you release a trailer that doesn't get picked up. A lot of weird things can happen over the course. So what can you even do about any of this? You can start early with basically before you even make a game. There's a talk and an article by Adam Saltzman and Ryan Clark, who are two vastly more intelligent human beings than me, about how to decide what to make. If you're not designing the game already, you should be looking at these articles to decide what to make and basically find something that is kind of the in-between between your creative and commercial desires. So the second thing you could do is you can do everything. So you can register a brand and brand a Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, website, Big Cartel, Twitch channel, Discord channel, TigSource thread. You can create a mailing list and write in-depth content for it that's bi-weekly, that's syndicated on the blog. You should probably do some screenshots, maybe like pick some fan art, blah, 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 blah. Send press releases and coordinate assets for these big announcements months and months and months in advance. You should feed the press a do distribute link at every chance you get, so by the end of your development cycle, you have this huge list of people who already want to play your game. You should go to every single network, every single event. This includes PAX West, PAX South, PAX East, Indiecade, Indiecade East, E3, GDC, and all the stuff in Europe I don't know about. You need to network, you need to push the brand, you need to get feedback, you need to do GIFs, like tons and tons of GIFs. You need to do also a podcast with your staff and have developer guests, and you like talk and talk and talk. Whoa, okay. You need to be making a video game, okay? Like, that's hard enough. And you totally can't do all of this. So it's time to like kind of realign yourself using my idol Patrick Swayze. How do you waste as little time, effort, money as possible with this huge checklist? The first thing you could do is pass it off to someone else. You could hire a marketing and PR person. You could hire me or one of the other great individuals who do marketing and PR. You could have a publisher. But that's not what this talk is really about. This talk is about you doing it. Game developers are some of the most creative, most intelligent, hardworking individuals I've ever met. And they say to me a lot, well, I can't think about marketing and PR. That's something you do. And I definitely believe that you can do it on your own without me. So I'm trying to put myself out of a job, basically. So the first part of what I do is I immerse myself in a video game. For a developer, this means you have to get out of your own way and get out of a developer mentality. This is kind of weird, but first thing is like kind of immerse yourself in all the things that you did when you first started making the game. Look at old design docs, prototypes, notes, just basically go through your Google Drive. Have someone interview you about your game. You'll find, but make sure they're like somebody outside of the industry. They'll probably ask you a lot of interesting questions like, oh, where did this game come from? Or why did you make this game? And basically from that, a lot of interesting nuggets will come out that you don't immediately think of as a developer who's working on your game every single day. Yeah, this is weird, but you should read some video game forums, maybe like NeoGAF or something. Read the comments, which kind of sucks, but you should. You should kind of see what everybody's saying about your game or anything around your game. Go to GameStop. I don't know, like just go hear what consumers are talking about and how they view games. Because a lot of times developers start to forget as you're in the middle of a very, very heavy development cycle. Throw out your assumptions. I know you really, really think that like procedurally generated terrain that you spent weeks and weeks and weeks on is really, really cool, but it might not be so cool to the consumer. So you have to kind of divide yourself from these things that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into, and kind of throw out your assumptions. So the chunk of what I do when I start a project is kind of this understanding phase. And this is basically arming yourself with a ton of information that you just aren't thinking about. The first thing is a visual and verbal brand analysis. This is a really fancy way of talking about putting all your cards on the table. This is basically looking at every single node of press, your own personal marketing. It could be copy from your Steam page. It could be tweets that you sent. It could be something on your blog. All this stuff kind of creates a visual and verbal brand image. So here's an example of like a really simple one I did for Thumper. We kind of looked at the key visuals and some screenshots and the copy that they were using. As you can see, like Thumper is like a super angry looking game. So when we were kind of talking about the social media voice for launch, we kind of thought like it might be fun to have like kind of an edgy voice or tone that kind of fit with the brand. So we were doing stuff like saying, hey, we've gotten some reports that people's thumbs are bleeding from Thumper. Too bad. And it kind of came from a lot of this kind of copy that was already written and this brand image. For M++, I kind of was, this is for their Steam launch. M++ was a game that launched on PS4 previously and then later came to Steam. I kind of looked at their visual identity and what they were putting out there. And also their verbal. And basically what we found was in every single point of blogs, copy, we were talking about the game in different ways. So we were wondering if people could really like kind of grasp what the game was about. So we knew that we had to kind of come up with a new consistent verbal identity. So it was kind of a really helpful exercise to pick apart every single part of M++'s verbal identity. The next part is a competitive audit. I don't know if that's spelled right. Oh well, but this is gonna feel weird, but it's totally okay, trust me. So your competitors are a lot of times your friends, your colleagues, people you respect. It's totally okay to look at them as competitors, and it's weird. But so basically what I do is kind of like take objectives. So in this case, for Gone Home for consoles, we were looking at a sub-brand strategy. And a sub-brand is kind of a secondary descriptor for a game. So for Gone Home, we finally landed on console edition for the console version. But we kind of did like an analysis of all these different competitors, which were indie games that had previously released on Steam that went to PS4. It's a very simple exercise, but it was extremely helpful in understanding how consumers and how developers see games as they're re-released. For Thumper, we kind of looked at Ryan, your game, Crypt of the Necromancer, and a bunch of other VR games, because we wanted to kind of see how people were seeing the like music genre. And obviously, like Thumper is a thing of its own, but it was still really helpful to kind of understand what had released and what was coming out. And then for M++, we kind of did a threefold thing. We were looking at what kind of genres that M++ could fall into, so platformers, time attack, minimalist graphics. We were looking at different prices, and by looking at the competitive set, we got a good idea of where we were going to be stacking on the Steam version. So the next thing I do is a SWOT. And it's not Keanu Reeves from Speed, though that's an awesome movie as well. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. This is a basic exercise that I use to kind of just basically analyze a game from a marketing point of view. So this isn't really a gameplay or design exercise so much as it is thinking of, like, as Adam Saltzman has talked about, kind of this tip of the iceberg that only consumers see of your game. That little tip of the iceberg that they see, how do you identify what each of these things are? So I felt a little uncomfortable like sharing me like ripping apart a bunch of other games. So I'm gonna use Bubsy as an example. I don't know why you're laughing. It's such a good game. So strengths. Bubsy has flight exploration. This is something that like was completely pretty much unseen in the platformer genre as of May 1993. This was a competitive difference between Mario and Sonic. Attitude and voice acting. Mario and Sonic were both silent. Bubsy had awesome one-liners. World building, there was like a really weird alien world where they were stealing all the yarn and Bubsy was a bobcat and there's all this weird stuff. It was cool. And there was a multitude of death animations. This may seem super lame and weird for us like in 2017, but back in 1993, I could totally see that on the back of the box. Weaknesses was like the game was like really floaty and unpredictably hard and kind of bad sometimes, but whatever. And we were kind of like living in a post-Sonic world, so you kind of think that people are going to make these brand associations between Bubsy and Sonic and direct comparisons. Opportunities, though, it was on the SNES first only. You think of like all these kids that are buying Mario and they go to their friend's house with the Genesis, they see Sonic, they can't get it because they only have SNES. It's kind of like it fills a gap in the marketplace. And there was also a release gap during the time that Bubsy came out. I don't know, some other game like Day of the Tentacle or something came out around then, but I don't know. Threats. So like on the flip side though, it could be seen as just like this kind of Sonic ripoff on SNES, which might be a detractor. And also Sonic CD was coming out later in the year. So it's just a really simple exercise of kind of compartmentalizing different ways of looking at a game from the outside. So we kind of come back to this list, and it's still really ridiculous and seems like a lot of stuff. But now, instead of just crossing off everything, we just cross off some of the things that we don't feel are right for our game. After we've looked at our competitive set and we kind of understand what they're doing, after we've kind of understood our consumers and what they need. And you can kind of eliminate a lot of these things so that you have the actual mental and emotional bandwidth to do it yourself without hiring me. So like some results of this are things like this. So like for the Night in the Woods team, they identified that their characters were probably some of the most memorable of all time. So they created a May plushie, which is going to be sold out for the foreseeable future and forever. For Overland, we created a first access program that basically enlisted players to buy Overland early on itch.io and get involved with the forums and have extra content. But we branded it and marketed it in such a way that it engages people to the brand strengths. For Brigador, they identified that they had like a really cool world, so they actually had a novel written and then an audio novel made from that novel. For Thimbleweed Park, Ron Gilbert has like an incredible following, so he decided that like a development blog was like a really good outlet, and he's kept up that development blog since their Kickstarter launch years ago. Then for Gone Home, for console edition, we were kind of thinking of interesting ways to pitch it to the press. And what do you do with a game that's been out for like 3 years? So it was mostly Steve, but we pitched basically the first ever Chivo on Gone Home, and then had him do a speed run in office at IGN. And these are all things that kind of, I think, really only come from an exercise like basically looking at your competitive set and looking at your game in a different way. So basically, to recap, you immerse yourself and kind of prepare yourself to get out of development mode and get into this weird psychological marketing mode. 2, you understand your game objectively. So you start to learn ways to look at your game without kind of bias. And 3, you execute on what makes sense and what you have budget for. And that's really it. And if you're interested in talking to me ever about marketing or PR or whatever, that's my Twitter. Thanks. If anybody has any questions, feel free to come up to the mic in the middle. Any questions? Anybody want me to do their marketing plan on the spot? That's fine, I'll do it.
Hey, my name is Oded Sharon. I'm speaking on a similar topic on Thursday at 3 p.m. Ultra low budget indie game developer. So this is my shameless plug. And there's a roundtable about low budget indie game development and marketing. I'll be happy if you'll join us and speak with other developers about this.
Would I?
Yeah.
On Thursday at 3?
4 p.m., yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Hello.
Hi.
A lot of your talk was about console or PC. Do you have any tips on mobile marketing or?
No, I'm sorry. I don't touch mobile. This is the thing that I want to also kind of leave with you is that I was marketing for baby therapeutics eczema creams and for tampons, and now I'm marketing for independent video games. I use the same exact theorems, and they seem to be working so far. So I think there's intricacies you need to learn about each marketplace, but if you follow a similar template, I think that you'll be okay with the same path.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Hi there.
Hi.
I feel like in the current indie scene, a lot of times the hook or the unique selling proposition is sometimes just seen as a crutch, especially if you're using low-budget graphics or inexpensive graphics. Do you have any ideas on how to gap that hurdle?
Get what hurdle? The USP?
Well, specifically, the USP is often seen as a crutch, as instead of a hook or something unique, it's like, oh, I get it, it's this plus this or whatever, as opposed to something that's maybe has unique gameplay or a unique experience for the player.
So I think a helpful exercise, and I think the question is, he's asking about a unique selling proposition, and I think, as I understand it, kind of talking about a game, comparing it to other games, and how do you get a one-liner that's effective? And I think a one-liner is really effective for when you're talking to the press or you're talking to other developers, or you are just somehow getting your message to consumers. But you want it to feel like the thing that you're saying. So maybe your game is a mixture of Final Fantasy Tactics and like Kirby, but you don't say that. You want to get that feeling. So I would kind of like take each of those elements of your like fake one-liner and then kind of look at the elements from that and look at how you can make it a unique spin on your own. I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Cool, thank you.
Yep.
Hi. So you talked about marketing the game really early in the process. But for example, I just have now the game as like the world generation character movement and not much going to the AI and all of that. So to me, it feels like, is it too early now to promote my game when there's not much to show in the first place?
So the question is like about marketing your game early, and if there is a point where it's too early to promote your game. I think that like there's a difference between marketing and promotion or PR, and you don't want to be promoting your game too early, but you do want to be doing marketing. So marketing is a lot of kind of the brand thinking and core principles behind everything that you're going to push later on through your promotion. PR, there could be an entire talk on basically PR timing and promotion timing. It's incredibly critical in when you email press. Like, are you emailing them one day before the conference? Are you emailing them 4 days before the conference? When are you giving them assets and review copies? So I think like you shouldn't be promoting your game when you're just starting out. And I think like it's a little addicting right now for developers to share everything that they do. And that's totally okay. And it's like one principle of promotion, which is like, hey, I made this prototype. I made the prototype again. The prototype has better graphics. Look at the physics engine now. And I'm not as big of a fan as that kind of iterative approach as keeping it closer to your chest, but everybody has different preferences. So.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, how's it going? I'm Posse.
It's kind of okay, yeah, I'd say.
I wanted to ask about leveraging the development team for marketing and PR purposes. Usually when you do not have any special marketing resources, you kind of have to work with the team to create stuff, and the teams tend to be somewhat negative towards marketing and PR. Have you found any good ways of leveraging like existing activities and like going with the flow, trying to find a way to work with the team that's natural to the development team to kind of for marketing ends?
The question was basically how do you motivate like a design team to approach marketing and PR? I feel like it was kind of lobbed because Ryan and I were just talking about this right before. Maybe it's like a plant or something, but basically like it's a design problem. Marketing and PR is a game design problem. You kind of have your objective, which is getting the player to the game, and you kind of have to figure out how to veer them in the right way. So if you kind of approach it the same way you would approach any other design problem, I think you can motivate your team to do this. Furthermore, like I think that like it's mostly a mental game, and that's kind of what this presentation was hopefully a little bit about, is getting yourself out of the mentality that marketing is this super scary professional thing. Because like if I can do it, like all you people who are so much smarter than me can definitely do it. So I think it's about framing is kind of the answer.
Cool, thanks.
Hello. So my question is, for the case of the one-man shop type of situations, for the complete single-man indie game case, do you have any tips around how much you PR and market for the game versus the person as a brand itself?
The question was basically about like a one-person development team. How much do you balance basically marketing the game and marketing the developer themselves? It's a really tricky question, and basically, I don't think anything can be templated out and copy and pasted from any game. So if you look at something like Stardew Valley with Concerned Ape, I don't remember his name at the time, But basically, that's kind of a success story, right? With one developer who, yes, they were published, but they made that game all on their own, and they are the figurehead. It doesn't always work for every single game that has one developer. So it's you kind of need to look at different examples, and maybe even look at things that have failed. Look for games that have had one developer teams that it's just not that, like when you look at it, it's not that interesting to you that they're talking about themselves. I think that's probably a good place to start. And then you can kind of do some soul searching, so to speak, and kind of evaluate your own personal brand and figure out whether that's right to, be the thing that you're marketing.
Thanks.
Yeah, so I'm curious if you have any quick tips or thoughts on continuing to market your multiplayer indie game to kind of keep it growing after launch.
So the question was tips for marketing a multiplayer game after launch. I've never, I think, actually worked on a multiplayer game. I've worked on like maybe 10 to 15, 20 games at this point, but never a multiplayer game. But I have talked to some people about it. And I think that the multiplayer games that are really successful right now are utilizing content updates and drops that are consistent, having a clear voice with your players and a clear avenue for communication is definitely something that's really successful. I think if you look at, kind of a competitive set, right? You look at people, or people like Dota 2, right? But you look at games like Dota 2 or any of these big multiplayer games, you could probably take that kind of mentality and pare it down for your own. So maybe like if you have like a big content update that you're planning, maybe you release different parts of it in like drips rather than one big update. Something like that. I don't know.
Thanks. Let me know if you want to help out on a multiplayer game.
Cool, thanks.
Hey man, how's it going? Also good?
Still okay,
still
I think,
okay.
yeah. I don't know.
I guess a couple things. One, I actually really love that vegan mayonnaise that you marketed. It's super awesome.
The what?
The vegan mayonnaise. Yeah, it's so good.
The vegan, was it mayonnaise? Yeah.
Yeah, really
Yeah,
good.
no, that was a weird project.
So my question is, when marketing and doing PR, do you do a dry run where you send it out to a smaller community or to just close friends or just, throughout? Or like, what are some, I guess, tips to better leverage your marketing and get feedback? Any tips on that?
So I think the question is mostly about like feedback in the early stages and how you utilize that feedback to market your game. I think like with everything, it's such a lame response, but everything is so individual and nothing works for one developer that would work for another. I think you need to look at your kind of game and the kind of content you have and kind of do like a similar analysis that I'm kind of putting out here today and then kind of evaluate whether the feedback that you would get, like, it depends also if your game's announced or not, right? Like, maybe you like have some weird kind of like ambiguous marketing thing. And sorry, I didn't catch your name, but I'm just gonna. What's your name?
My name is Ryan.
Ryan. So like your friend might be like, hey, I just tried Ryan's new prototype, and boy, oh boy, is that crazy? Like that kind of thing, Like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. I think you should be thinking about marketing always. And as I said, look at Adam and Ryan's talks to kind of evaluate what you're making and whether it's a thing that is viable. That's probably the best at that stage.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, I'm Martin.
We have time for one more.
All right, thanks for the talk. So I pushed my game on Greenlight just now, and let's not talk about Greenlight because that's a whole other thing. But I spent all of the nights before coming to GDC working on a trailer. And I kind of want to know, what's your process for a trailer? Because doing that is damn hard and it's fucking important.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat?
What's your process or what's your thoughts on trailers? Like, how do you go when it comes to coming up with a trailer concept or whatever?
I think like the question is about trailers specifically and how you decide what should be in a content trailer. So I was working on a game that was actually canceled and then the publisher picked it back up. So it kind of had this thing where people were really hyped for it. We announced it. We said we're like, 6 months for release, and then it got canceled. So we basically were like, okay, this is done. Then it kind of resurged. And we were like, okay, well, how do we re-announce this thing in a way that is interesting, that people won't feel betrayed again because they got excited for it the first time? So what we did with the trailer was we did a really personal message. We had the developer get on camera and speak directly to people and say, this is definitely happening. We gave them a definite release date at the time of the trailer and showed them some gameplay of it, and then that was the trailer. So I think like every trailer has very specific needs. And I would just say to everybody, for everything beyond trailers, always look inside, sounds so corny, look inside yourself and think about like what your game needs, and then kind of tweak what you're going to do based on that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.